Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to That's One Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, TK, and I'm joined, as always, by Cassisi Harris.
Hey, how you doing?
David Rios.
How you doing?
And Jose Fuentes.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. And as my partner in chat pointed out, it's my birthday today, so after the stream tonight, I'll be making sure I'm fully packed for a weekend at the coast.
Nice.
Yeah, but tonight we do have a more of a personal insert for me, and as far as topics go. As I mentioned before the show, I'm currently in the process of, and also thank you, Rory Boyle, a longtime friend, in the process of teaching myself how to draw. So I figured what better use of an hour that I have a couple artists trapped here with me that I can ask them what they use to get started and how to draw hands. Vic, how goes it? I have my book around your center, but yeah, a page. It's just like doing like the box on box method and all that. That's it's right underneath plastic miniatures. We'll be getting into that tonight. But before we do, a check in with everyone as we do at the start of the show. Cassisi and I started our week off strong. We killed a god yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah. Cleared Zodiac and making my way towards the end scener. But other than that, how's everyone's week? How's the time between shows?
Busy.
Very
For me, mostly stuff with my kids. My son's graduating soon this year, and my 16-year-old, she had a weekend full of play. She was in a play for school, and just has been already busy. And last like all weekend was busy. So
Nice.
Very cool.
What play?
they did Freaky Friday.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And then my son has a competition this weekend for indoor percussion in Daytona.
Nice.
Very cool.
Cool. Okay. David, your week, but usual. Anything exciting? Anything new? Anything different?
No, just trying to take care of some stuff with my mom's estate. Trying to finish all that. It's amazing how long that stuff drags out.
Yeah.
So that and day job just keeping me busy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm in the process of doing. He hasn't passed on yet, but I'm the power of attorney for my father. So we're in the making sure everything gets paid or funds are where they need to be, and talking to all the different agencies. That's
Oh yeah, there's a lot of work
There's a
people
lot.
don't realize.
which is why when I worked in finance, this is not financial advice. This is just at this point I'd consider it common wisdom. Get a trust. Find a lawyer. Get a trust.
Right.
Everyone in your family will thank you.
Oh yeah, we faced opposition from my mom at that point. So, but yes, highly recommended. Get that so it makes your life 10 times easier. So
Yeah. Okay. We're going to be talking about everything you need to know to get started drawing tonight. Thank you, Rory. Yes, everyone get a trust. We're talking now about everything you need to know to get started drawing. As for if anyone is a new time, first time listener or new listener, they might know our layout of talent, but I, Tim TK, KCC Harris, we're both writers by trade. David Rios, the colorist, and Jose Fuentes is an inker. But for a lot of us, that's not all we do necessarily in the creative space. And we've all, before the show, Casey was talking about Skillshare and picking up new skills, things like that. And it's always a good idea to always be learning, improving, picking up something new. Even if it's not necessarily something to monetize. I mean, unfortunately, I realized, once you start monetize your writing, it's no longer a writing hobby. Writing is your job.
Right.
So I'm like, well, okay, but painting's my hobby now, and then people start asking me to pay me to paint their models. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll start teaching myself how to draw. Exactly, Rory. We're asking. The next question is, how can you get better at arting? Well, if your starting point is suck, which everyone's starting point now, and their skill is always at suck. How do you go from being sucky at something to being kind of good at something? So I really should have had my sketchbook here, but I apparently put it somewhere, and I don't know where. Anyway. So something I've started, as I have read online, the most basic tools you need to get started drawing if you want to get into comics, illustration, or just drawing as a hobby, is get sketch paper, get sketchbook, and a set of pencils and an eraser. And then and then I want to get a little more things so I can mess with the different parts of it. So I also picked up a set of pens at different weights. Pencil weights. I learned about pencil weights. That's something that you need to learn, apparently. As well as some Copic markers. But you do have those here. These aren't actual Copics. That's a brand, but it's the same idea. These are
Well, with like
alcohol.
so pulpits are expensive, right?
Yeah,
They're like $7, $8 a marker,
yeah,
and um, like if you have been invested in them, I can see continuing to do so, right?
yeah,
But I think was it a couple of years ago? I think their not their copyright, but whatever the trademark. You know, you got something you can trademark something for so long where
yeah.
nobody else can replicate the formula. I think that got lifted because now we start seeing who markers started coming out. I think yeah,
These
as
are like
you're
it's
coming
like
out.
$22 for a set at Walmart, and it's I picked like this up compared it to a Copic, and it's the same like
Yeah.
double side. Yeah,
So the only difference between them is the formula of their like ratio of ink to alcohol.
yeah, definitely.
So sometimes the dyes in them are a little off compared to like say the color on the thing is green, like it's like a verdant green. Um, Sometimes the color is a little off, it'll be a little more dull or something like that. But that's just what I mean. That again, that's just like formula stuff.
Yeah, and those of you who don't know what an alcohol marker is, uh, she'll say, "Shut off a pregnancy test." Thank you, Rory. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's congratulations, it's turquoise. For those who don't know what alcohol markers, essentially it's something you can. It's a marker you can take to canvas paper and a sketchbook. Use a protection sheet between. That's also something you have to learn.
Yeah.
And essentially, as long as you don't like go like double back over it and you have the same pressure, it's gonna turn the entire thing the same shade, and then you can go back over it again with the same marker to darken it. You can do it several times to then like layer your shading. So it's the closest thing I can think of to like the results you'd get coloring digitally, but with a marker on paper.
I found, and I talked about this before, but I found this brand at San Diego Comic Con, Olo, and they sell them in these halves.
Okay.
And they have refills that you can buy that are a lot cheaper than that, and you can custom make them. And they
Nice.
also have, if you look, they have two different tips. So you've got, let me find it on here.
The super brush tip.
So you got your brush tip, and then you've also got your chisel tip.
Nice.
So you've got some different options, and then you've got like I've got these as well, and this has like a blending tip.
Okay.
So there's some options there. You can find, surprisingly, if you want to go through and find some that are pretty cheap. I have seen some of these type of sets at like Ross for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
If you just want to
Like they have,
start and play around with it.
Like what a 10-pack to like 130 pack.
Yeah. You can find different ones, all kinds. But like I know with this brand, there's ones that are pure black, and this one, for example, is a blue black, so it's got a little tinge to it. So, and then I think this company has a red black also, so it's got a slight reddish tinge to it. It's still a black, but it's not a cold black. So
yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of options out there. But definitely, if you just want to start and play out, then maybe something like like they said at Ross or something, or a store like that might be an option. Just
if you don't want to invest in the markers right away because you might not be into them.
Yeah. I mean, like to jokingly to answer Roy's kind of joke question here, if I buy the most expensive tools and paper, will I be better? As much as like the wish is like if you buy the best writing software, if you buy like Final Draft, you're going to be the best screenwriter. If you buy I will say there is a little more translation just from like going from not having supplies to having like the correct range of supplies in illustrating. Right. You will notice you start like even just switching to actually inking over my works using a set of pens from Mono, like the Tombos.
Mm-hmm.
I found that I've started
I'll be right back.
taking better care of my line work because I know because I'm thinking ahead to when I go later and ink that what that's going to look like. So, so let me do this real quick. I'll pull David back when I get back. So, I bought a set of inking pens, and now when I'm actually going to do my sketch, thinking ahead to the fact that I'm going to be inking it later, I find that I'm taking more care, sketching out my outside lines and what that looks like, and actually working towards that because I know that I have the tools later on to do something with it. And then having different weights of pen, so you can actually do like a thicker line on your outside, thinner lines on your inside, and actually care about line weight. That does, drastically improve the way the thing looks at the end. Just the 80-20 rule, right? But what I find to be the most useful for like quality work is these little 75-cent wrapped paper sticks.
Yeah, Tortillin.
Yeah.
I'm back.
I'm actually shading out my pencils. So it's not like in the like Vic said, yeah, getting small cheap stuff. The you're gonna have like a capped top, right? But your scale probably isn't even there to notice it when you're starting out. So getting the right range of tools will be a little bit of investment, but you don't need to get the highest end of that range.
You really don't.
Just like
I
getting.
wanted to show I have a couple of things here since we were talking about. Sorry, back on the markers. So I have these, for example. These are the actual Copics. These are the Chow, which is they have some nicer ones, but these are more affordable. I think this is like a 6-pack. I think I paid like $20 for. And then I got this one, which was pretty cool. It's an Olo set. It's one that Alex Sinclair worked with a company to create and to create a set. And this is what you can use for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman that he uses for that. So there's some nice double-sided pens in here. And then, as we were talking about before, I also got this. It's a set of 36. This one is one that I got at Ross for $11.
There you go. Yeah.
So you've got a whole range of different markers, different colors, and all that. So lots of cool stuff. So I wanted to figure show and tell might be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of over there. I mean,
So go ahead.
And I got it signed by Alex.
Nice.
So cool.
You guys, what advice would you? Because you guys are going into the markers and the materials and everything that you need, but I think a lot of people. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think a lot of people, since drawing and art is more accessible now, want to, but they're at an age where they feel like, why even bother, right? It's going to take like umpteen years for me to even be somewhat competent. Like, what advice would you have for like the older person or the person who hadn't started out in an art kind of?
Yeah. So here's the weird thing. Yeah. So I had that same thought, but then I immediately, there were several YouTube videos I saw that immediately kind of fought that for me.
Mm-hmm.
one of the ones, oddly enough, I follow a channel called Nerd Forge, and if those of you don't know, they're a hobby and crafting channel. For a married couple up in Finland, and I forgot his name, but the husband of the couple, he does not draw at all. So they did a video where the wife taught him to draw over 100 hours, and they reaching like a fairly high level competency after only like 100 hours. Which if you think about it, that's 40, 80. That's 2.5 work weeks. Worth of time, which we can't all put in like 8-hour days of drawing, as much as we wish we were Jose. But they think about that. Then if you do like an hour a day, that's 100 days, which is less than a third of a year to reach the same level of competency. And then I saw PewDiePie's video. PewDiePie, yeah, he did a video where he forced himself to sit down and draw every day for 100 days, and that quality of work there was like, you would not think that's for someone who just started to teach themselves to draw that same year. So I've been then, so I started following a bunch of like other YouTube guys, and I believe it was Sam Does Art, something like that. Somehow now we're at a point where when you're teaching yourself to draw, you can do so in a way that is much more intentional than any time previously. Because like even now, like he's saying, like now is the best time to start drawing when you're 30, 40, 50 years old, because when you sit down and draw, you can think like, previously when you were going through art classes, right, you got that orchestrated to like, okay, so you're gonna go into lecture, you do this, and then that week you're practicing this. You go down lecture and do this week you're practicing this. Saying you can now do that, but on a day-by-day basis, where like that day you think of something you want to draw, you go down, look at a YouTube video, find a Pinterest tutorial, and then just fill out a page or two on your sketchbook doing that practice, and then do the same thing the next day and the next day and the next day. Whatever you're trying to improve at, that tool is immediately accessible to you. You don't have to wait for that to be on the subject of the lecture. So I joke about this is my forcing Jose to teach you how to draw hands episode, which we will get there because anatomy is there's a reason why people love or hate it. But it like it was one of the things where, like, I think it was day 9 on my sketchbook. I'm like, I was like, I know hands are going to suck, and I should probably get those started sooner rather than later. So I just looked up videos on Pinterest. How do you draw hands? Videos on YouTube. How do you draw hands?
Right.
And I saw like the method, like, and I'm a firm believer that like now being a month in, when you're learning how to do something, don't just try to like regurgitate it. When you see how they do the construction method, do the full construction, because it helps your brain piece it apart to do it again later.
Yeah.
So then I started doing doing the 2 boxes with the cone at the bottom. The cone becomes the wrist. One box becomes the palm. The other box you then put lines in to start forming fingers, and then when you get out, you're like, oh, this is actually a hand. But when I started, it was 2 boxes, and like there's still some fine details I'm working on making that more passable, not just like weird uncanny valley hands. But I got to the point where very quickly you could make an uncanny valley like, this isn't quite right, but I can tell it's a hand. So I'd say like it's one where if you want to go down and spend to more Chantel, if you want to spend, like, if you want to get into drawing, spend $10, get yourself a sketchbook, and don't worry about the pens or anything later. If you're just getting into it, worry about getting grades of pencils. Right. I got 2. I have a hard black, a 2B, and a 4B here.
What are those duets?
These are these are just from a brand called Simply. I think there's like a generic brand. Okay. But
so the majority pencil I use, right? I use a 2mm pencil for almost everything, right? But for the sake of like wanting to rough stuff out, I actually use a carpenter pencil.
Yeah.
Okay, and then a regular, just a lead pencil. Like, you don't have to have anything fancy. Like, I made a point today of just specifically working with just a regular wood pencil.
Yeah.
I use a lot of mechanical stuff just because I like my lines to be clean when I want to do, you know what I mean, like just detail and texture and whatnot.
I was gonna say, I see a lot of artists at conventions and stuff, and they're just doing things with a mechanical pencil,
Yeah.
5.7.
like a cheap little big one. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
And like
mean, I
yeah,
those are the ones I usually use, the mechanical ones I
Yeah.
use. But like I said,
yeah. I like
Jose,
I like
every
using the
every time I see a pencil like that, I think of, maybe you guys don't remember this. You ever play breaks?
Yes, I do.
yeah.
Every time I see those pencils, it's pretty funny. So I have a follow-on question, and I'm not trying to hog all the questions, but mindset. So we just broke the barrier. Hey, you can start at any age. Now you have a repository of information where you can really teach yourself intentionally how to draw. So what is a healthy mindset? Because, as when you start anything, right? Especially something like this, you desire to go from 1 to 100 very quickly, right? You want to create what you see on a page or what you see animated.
Right.
What is the healthy mindset for the person who is just getting into it? Like, should their goal be, hey, can you do something proportionately right? Like, what is a healthy expectation or mindset for the beginner when they go in?
Well, as I talk about like with the writing advice a couple weeks ago, I was like, I have like the weird with the editor notes. I feel like I have like the weirdest psychotic breaks to develop my mindsets. The one I had for drawing was understanding that I am not a professional drawer, professional illustrator.
Mhm.
I'm like every page that I go down to sketch is going to look like crap. So when I do something that is like moderately not crap, I'm like, hey, that's a win. So, but the actual thing I'm thinking about was like being excited for like milestone days, like knowing that everything that I'm doing now is in preparation for day 50, and then everything from that point on is in preparation to day 100. Everything from that point on is from preparation to day 200. Like, someone gave me some advice a while ago that I think sticks with me for like a lot of different things that they're talking about. Unless something goes terribly wrong, where you are with something, as long as you keep on doing that something, you're never going to go backwards. You can only really go forwards. You may end up going forwards in a weird, janky sort of way if you don't necessarily have like the right fundamentals, but just end up going forwards. And then you end up getting some really weird art styles, and then it just looks like Sandman. But the understanding that you're not going to be at I am not going to put the same page down that Jose is going to put down, because Jose has been doing this for far longer than I have and actually does this as his thing.
Couple days.
But I shared this photo. It's in our art Discord and also in the group chat. It's like, I did that guts not too long ago. I'm like, I'm happy with that. Like, that looked like admittedly, like, Berserk is not the most well illustrated manga, but I'm like, this looks like a panel from it.
Tommy in his comments.
Love Tommy.
Yes, use pencils. Oh, you're talking about I used to
we use crayons.
Use crayons,
those really large.
I've done that. So I went to a restaurant that had like a very like lacquered table, and I'm not gonna tell you what restaurant it was, but they give you kids crayons, and I drew this giant rooster on the table in crayon, and I had people like my family was like, "You can't do that. You can't draw on the table." I'm like, "It's a wax crayon. They're just gonna wipe it off anyway." So like, yeah.
But you can send you that. But yeah, I'm not looking for critique or anything at this point. I'm just literally just drawing from reference and then putting the reference up to it to see like where I botched. But yeah, I draw through pencils, and then I use one of those pencils for sketching, one of them for lines, and one of them for shading.
And it's not just for drawing too, right? Like you could color theory, all of that is a little bit intimidating for a lot of folks.
What's the same thing? Like, it's I'm talking as a person of authority here, despite being only so many days into my drawing journey. But that's the same mindset that I had to get into writing, which I had to get into painting. Like, I don't have any of my competition painting pieces. Well, let me see here. Okay. But it's that same mindset of like, this was not a day one piece for me.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Like, this is day so many hundred or whatever. And like, it's really hard to tell, but there's actually translucent glass for the fire effect in their hands. So then you have to like deal with like painting something's translucent. It's a nightmare. But
Rory, by the way, I have used those fountain pens that you can replace the ink.
yeah.
I have also. I was trying to remember what the name of them are. I have them
Um,
in my
plat-
art bin.
is it platinum? I think it's platinum, right? Well, the one I used
Yeah.
anyway. The one I used had a platinum converter, which allowed me to use whatever ink I wanted, as opposed to like the throwaway cartridges. It was actually one I had to like stick it in and like spin it to like suck up the ink. And I did that because the ink I was using was Sumi ink, and the Sumi ink is Copic fast, so I could actually like go over stuff with that and then go over it with Copic markers if I wanted to, or vice versa.
Yeah.
No,
And
the ones I was using are pretty old. They were all the double out zeros, the ones, the twos, and you would
Yeah.
refill the ink. They even had the attachment. It's like a big
Are you talking about the
baster.
Rapidograph?
Yeah, the rapidograph stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to use all of those, which was interesting because
So those are nice until they get gunked up.
they
Then
are.
all the little micro gears in there and whatnot, just like are garbage after that.
Well, I was never really proficient with either a brush or one of your standard inking quills.
Oh, I
So,
love Crystal.
so when I was when I was inking, I would actually use a rapidograph, and I would create the strokes
Nice.
with those, which took a lot longer to do. But
yeah,
Yeah, I keep my inks handy.
nice.
there you go.
Yeah, Tommy. StreamYard's like color correction is not the best for trying to show off painted work. So if you want to see actual what those look like, you can find them on my Instagram. Because the auto correction is just going to end up dimming out whatever I try to put up there. Yeah. So kind of going into all that. Jose, when you first started getting into drawing, was it just you in you in the classroom with like your notebook and like a number 2 pencil?
It was me getting in trouble for everything, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mean, for the longest time, even like I think throughout junior high and high school, like wood pencils were made for pencil fights, and mechanical pencils were for school, for doing schoolwork on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always carried like if it wasn't sketchboards, I always carried like backing boards, like just stacking my backpack, and I would draw on backing boards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I still have quite a few of them. I just look at them and I just cringe. I'm like, oh, those are not good. Why do I still have those?
Yeah.
I'd use a lot of the like they were the Pintels, like I said, anywhere from a 0.3 to a 0.9. Though I've actually found some 1.3. Those are some pretty thick leads.
Nice.
But then I also use the old mechanical pencils where you had the big long lead and like the drafting pencils, and you had the sharpener you put in and rotate around. So exactly.
This guy.
Yeah, so I use those.
And
I have a set of those. Yep. So there's some nice stuff. One of the things that Tim mentioned was, that he has some H leads and some B leads and all that stuff. But I don't think for the beginner, I don't think that was fully explained about, some of the advantages between like a B lead versus an H lead and stuff like that. So
that's a whole like episode and conversation in and of itself,
Mhm.
just describing like each one, but like going and using the grades of lead set of pencils. For me anyway, those are more for like if you're trying to do a lot of rendering and a
Yeah,
little more realism into your artwork. You know what I mean?
that's kind of one of those things. Like speaking of like, we live in an age where you can look up like tutorials on anything at any moment. Where like I wanted
Yeah.
to look up how to get a certain shading effect. I found a YouTube video and someone's like, "Well, you can do it this way by using these certain grades of pencils, and then using some tools to kind of cheat out like that."
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
but I
then-
mean, just
yeah.
the overview. I mean, maybe we got a lot of people here who know what you're talking about, but then there may be some who don't know. So
Like,
like
you
your
know,
your H or your harder,
Yeah.
harder heads. So they do lighter lines and stuff like that. Whereas your B's and stuff like that are ones that are really soft. And
Yeah.
so if you're say you're doing a page that has a lot of just like light lines and like that, you may want to use more of a hard an H lead, and the numbers go up. So as you go to a 6H, for example, it's going to be a lot harder than a 1H or whatever.
Right.
And
Like
then
the number on the scale denotes how compressed the graphite is in the pencil.
Yeah.
So if you're doing, for example, a page that maybe it's in a dark cave, you'll want to you may want to sketch things out maybe with a hard pencil, but for filling in a lot of those dark areas and blacks, you want to use the B ones because they're a lot softer and they're able to fill those darker areas in easily.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Like
just kind of a nickel tour.
Yeah.
I initially pencil everything in 2H. I like
Yeah.
it hard, but not like I can't see anything on the paper. And as I pointed out to Roland one day at a convention, when I do it, I have my lead sticking out like that far from the pencil. Like when I stick it out, it's like this far, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because if I tend to be a little heavy-handed, and if I extend it out, it forces me to have to be lighter
Yeah.
with it. Because if you're heavy-handed with the H's, it will leave grooves and it'll leave like excess lead more than what you want there when you're initially starting out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I mean, it's all your preference. Like I know, I mean, again, a normal wooden pencil is HB, which is like basically the mid grade everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and 2H is a fairly common pencil for people to use. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of give a brief things for people. I mean,
clarify a little bit.
because he's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
help you?
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, for the sake of photo reference, we pull something up here. But yeah, this is one of those things where, like, I didn't know about, like, I didn't like growing up in the American school system. The only thing I ever knew about was like a number 2 pencil. That's all I ever used was number 2 pencil. And then I was looking at like, well, I want to shade something with the pencil before I do inks or colors with it. I want to kind of do like more like the color book, storybook style thing, like a lot of kids' books have. And they're like, oh, you use a pencil and you use a different grade of pencils. Like with the way you do something here, you use something like a. And then they did explain like the range of stuff, like the range of Bs you could use to get different effects. And I know that like I'm still starting out in illustration, so I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on it. So I found out, you can buy a pack for like $7. So I'm like, dope, might as well, right? Here we go.
So that's a good point because especially for people starting out, it's what you can get. Look at something cheap so to find out if this is something you really want to do. And then once you get proficient with it, you can go and start looking at different options and different things, how much you want to get into it.
Yeah, I wanted to like do like the little storybook effect, like getting like the shading around like the neckline and actually making it look like a round rubber ducky. So
you're trying to give it depth by creating that shadow.
absolutely.
Why do I picture the wings coming out and machine guns coming?
Yes, Gundam Duck.
Gun duck. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's the comical. I'll see. Yeah, we'll do that. That'll be my foray into comics illustrations. I'll see our Gun Duck illustrated.
Easter Bunny versus Gunda.
Yeah,
Good story.
Easter Bunny versus Gun Duck.
There you go. Another thing that I've used before, when I was learning a lot of this stuff in college, was there's also a lot of pencilers will use non-photo blue to kind of lay things out, because it doesn't when you make copies, or you scan stuff, unless you're specifically trying to scan that particular color, most of that stuff disappears. So they like to lay it out there, and then they don't bother to go through and erase a lot of it. They kind of lay everything out, and then they get their pencils out and start doing their fine tuning and putting their lines down. And then from there, if they're going straight to inks, they go that direction. Or if they go on a different sheet, either with a light box or some kind of projection, and they go inks that way. But the main thing is, that's another thing that some artists will do is lay out in a non-photo blue. And you'll find, if you're interested in that way, it will be labeled non-photo blue. And there's your red. Your reds.
I use red.
Yeah. So.
But I have a mechanical pencil for every color I need, right? So I have the red. I actually have two for red. This is like an older one that I had. The same principle, 2mm lead. But I also have a blue lead in it, and that's what I was holding up earlier. Was that wherever the heck I put it? 'Cause I got stuff everywhere. Was there's the red, and behind it is my blue. You know what I mean? Like just two packs I can tape together.
Yeah, absolutely, Tommy. The non-photo blue is waxy.
Yeah,
it definitely is waxy.
It really is. So you can't really go very heavy with it.
Yeah.
The red is the same way. I mean, it's basically what color pencil lead. You know what I mean? But I still prefer just to use my 2H for almost everything.
Right.
But there's some days I feel, you know what I mean, feel a little froggy. But yeah, so like there's my 2mm 2H that I use all the time. There's my 2mm HB, and I taped it so I knew which one it was. And then there's my 2B, my darker stuff. I want to like finish off and darken my usually my outlines.
Definitely. Well, we've actually been kicking right along with this stream tonight, just talking about all the stuff we've used to get into drawing. We haven't really talked about if someone is wanting to get into drawing digitally. And of course, there's like the age-old argument of learning. Like, when you're first learning to draw, do you like learn how to draw traditionally, or do you go straight into digital, and like the pros and cons thereof? Now, from personal experience, I find that I am preferring to do a lot of drawing traditionally now. But I think if you're a hobbyist, there's nothing wrong with going straight to digital, especially since you can get a tablet for less than $50 now, and there's a bunch of free software. So like whatever you can do to like,
I don't know what the free
you in the door.
is, but I know that there are some. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? My softwares aren't free. I use Clip Studio mostly, and then I have Procreate on there that I'm kind of learning to dabble with.
Yeah.
And I was taught to do digital inks. I was taught to do that by Afua Richardson. She taught me how to do it on AOL Instant Messenger, or not AOL. She taught me over AOL Instant Messenger how to ink with Illustrator.
So inking on AOL, that's gotta be like,
Well, right.
Yeah.
Like, and what Vic said. I prefer traditional inks. Obviously, like I keep my inks near me, right? I prefer to do inks traditionally, but if you know what you're doing, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, you know what I mean, but if you know what you're doing, digital inks move by a little quicker
Yeah,
because you can do, as opposed to like, brushing in all the spot blacks, you can sit there and just lasso it and fill.
yeah. I think also for like particularly starting with like ki- like kids who grew up around like with the same time as like CC and myself, that like when they were doing art stuff, like they would like illustrate stuff and put it up on Newgrounds. And for a lot of them, they were just doing stuff using a mouse pad on like Microsoft
Yeah.
Paint, and that's how they learned how to draw, was just doing digital stuff using the mouse. So I think now, like,
And my friend Ward Vaughn, his first inking gig, he inked using a mouse and MS Paint, I believe.
yeah. So I think there's a lot of kids that like similarly, like if like their first experience and they're doing something creative was like their parent getting them a $30 tablet for Christmas, and they just start like drawing like Goku on their computer. I think that's great.
Oh, that's cool. My family, because I've always drawn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't ever remember a time I didn't draw. Yes, you did, Vic. I actually saw pictures that I believe she posted and you posted. She's amazing. But anyway, so like my growing up, like my family always like wanted to encourage me to draw, but I don't think they ever understood how my brain worked. So my family's logic, and that goes from my mom to my dad to uncles and whatnot and aunts. I was like, I knew for a fact for Christmas I was getting that freaking art set that had the wet or what was it the oil pastels and the little tray of watercolors and the pencils, and I would take the pencils and throw everything else out.
Nice.
So
So like I'm not going to use any of that.
So I think to kind of recap our primary points here, we've learned like if you want to get started drawing, you don't need to go expensive with it. You don't need the most expensive equipment. Just buy what's cheap in front of you,
Right.
digital or traditional. Take it day by day, knowing that you're not going to be the greatest right away. Your day one is built leading up to your day 100. So know
Right.
that it's all process. And the internet is your oyster to look up as many tutorials as you want. Whatever you want to draw that day, look up how like to properly construct it and learn those construction blocks.
So and that's pivotal, right? But
Yeah.
even if you don't want to go that route, you can learn. But I actually have something about that in 80 Racers in a second. But you can take pictures, and I personally don't have
Tommy.
problems because I do. But you can take a picture like someone like Neil Adams drew, and then you draw that out, right? You look at it and you try to copy the whole thing. But as long as when you're doing it, you're deconstructing it in your head. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is how he drew folds in the shirt. This is how he did freaking anchor points for his folds. This is how he did like his profile for the face. Like
Yeah.
this is how when you deconstruct it in your brain or on a separate sheet of paper. Just draw a part of it. You know what I mean? Like you want to draw something like freaking Jim Lee did. All right, pull a Batman up, pull a X-Men that he did, and then draw parts of it. Figure out like that part and then move on to the next part of that figure. That's honestly that's what I did growing up.
Yeah.
Like a lot of for me wasn't getting the books and learning. Like I had them. I had how to draw fantasy characters, how to draw cars,
Yeah.
how to draw, and I always skip to the end. And then after I drew it out, then I'd go back and see where did I mess up? Why did mine not come
Yeah.
out? One thing that I don't think we've really kind of touched on is there's you also need to learn a lot of the basics of shadowing shapes and things like that. I know a lot of that in general art courses teach that but it's learning a lot where things like the lights and the darks hit, also things like perspective and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's always good to go and look all that stuff up. Your basic classes will show you stuff. And then when I did some stuff, we had some really weird things like blown up walnuts and popcorn. I've got sheets where I got a piece of popcorn that's like this big and and this tall, and it was great because as you had all the different facets of it, you could see where the lights and the darks hit. It's not just a sphere, a sphere on a table type thing. It had a lot of different things, and how some of the ridges created shadows.
Right.
And
You showed the textures in it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
And one of the things that I found real interesting was, for example, I had a popcorn shape, and they said, all right, well, draw this out. And I drew it on, a white page with pencil lead and everything. It's huge. It's bigger than 11 by 17. And then they're like, okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to take that same popcorn and I want you to draw it on black paper with white pencil.
Yep.
So it causes you to reverse your thinking. So now instead of adding all the darks, you're adding all the lights as you go through. So that gave some things, but learning a lot of those things on how the shadings work, and just looking at my side thing, you can see, here's your light here, your dark edge, and then you have your refracted light over here. So as you go through, you can see how those things and get used to drawing them. So whenever you're going through, like Jose said, and and trying to redo the stuff of your favorite artists, you kind of have a better understanding of why they did it the way that they did, and that helps you understand how how to go forward with that and do that stuff on your own. So
the big point here, great exercise doesn't go to park and start drawing people until they catch you.
So that actually works. For me anyway, if you understand the fundamentals of gesture drawing, because then you can hash them out real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you're trying to get people in motion and poses and like real life, movements and whatnot, like even faces.
Yeah. There's a that remind me of is there's actually a writing exercise which is oddly similar, which is go to a coffee shop, and then when someone walks in, start creating their backstory. So it's a way of developing your ability to read body language, movement, how someone will present themselves. So like you kind of look at like how are they holding their shoulders, how is their head tilted, what's their general expression, what does the energy level look like. Do you imagine like that this come back from a fight, this come back from a meeting? So that's also an exercise for learning how to intuit body language in your writing.
Just don't do it the way I did it, because I take things way out of whack. What happened on the way here? Well, they went, they fell in a pothole, and their car got sucked into a void. Or you're just throwing all those things.
You can always go absurdist with it. We're in comics.
So another question, and again, my questions are primarily on mindset. So, the beginning phase of a lot of things, you're eventually gonna hit like a plateau. Like maybe you have some initial wins because you're really talented at something, so you excel, and then you hit this wall. Like in your careers, in art, what did you do? What did you tell yourself? How did you not quit but get past the wall? If that makes any sense. Or do you even remember a wall, like a plateau?
So not necessarily for me, not necessarily a plateau, but like when I was finished with art school and we moved back to Florida, I kind of sat like finally I had a day that everything was done, the kids were off to school, the wife was at work, and I got to sit down at my table and be like, I have no clue what I'm going to draw. Right. So then I started getting a hold of some friends and whatnot, and me and a couple guys, we hung out before I went to art school, and so we were like, hey, let's get together, let's just like go to Starbucks or go to Perkins or something like that and just draw, right? And it started off being we would bring a sketch cover, and we would each have to draw a figure on the sketch cover, right? Then when that turned into drawing night at my local comic shop, I asked for themes to be created, right? Hey, what are we drawing this week, right? And that helped because then I didn't have to sit there and be like, I don't know what I want to draw. Like, and there's so much stuff I want to draw, so many stuff I don't, and I'm like, oh, but like I can start this, but oh man, I want to do something different. Um, but if we had to lock down a theme, like, hey, we're doing Saturday morning cartoons. Okay, I can do that. I'll take a character and I'll draw that, right? Or video game characters, video game females, uh, 97 X-Men, right? Anything. You know what I mean? As long as it was a theme pick, that actually helped me to push past, that indecisiveness to move. In regards to like plateau, I don't think that I ever like per se hit a plateau, but I got to a point where like something frustrated me. Like Tim was saying, like hands, like drawing hands. Like I'm still not perfect at drawing hands, right? I don't always get it right the first time, but spending an entire year where my only warm up in a sketchbook, the only warm up I ever did was just drawing hands. I put my hand in a pose or take a picture of it, you know what I mean? So I showed like a different angle of it and drew that. That was my warm up for like beginning. That was my cool down at night. You know what I mean? Because I knew I wanted to draw hands better. Then I realized in art school wasn't very good at drawing feet. So I asked my friend Simone to help me draw feet because she drew. I don't know what it is, but she actually knew how to draw feet. And they came out amazing.
Vic says, for me, I felt like I really was taking a period a few months ago, and then kind of just told to stop thinking that way and get back to moving.
Yep.
You being like,
Switch to something different, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's
if you're penciling, switch to inking.
Yeah.
Ink in some of your old stuff. Just find out new techniques. Like, oh, I'm not an inker, but I've been penciling all the time. I kind of hit a spot where I'm like, I can't progress any further. Okay, go back and ink some of the old stuff that you had. You know what I mean? Like, okay, inking is different. Like now you have to focus on line weight. Now you have to focus on depth and texture, feathering. You know what I mean? Hatching, cross hatching, spot blacks. Just like different things like that. You have to consider that. So that takes your brain into a different direction. And then once you get a few things in line for that, you're like go back to penciling. And I think that you'll notice that your penciling you'll push past that a little more. You know what I mean? To be like, okay, like, oh, now when I pencil, I'm taking into consideration, like Tim was saying, now that I pencil and I'm inking my own stuff, I'm taking that into consideration when I pencil. And that'll help push past, a block as well, because then you're looking at it as not just like a quick little pencil, or not like a single line weight pencil. You're looking at it as your line having depth, and you want to create like say foreshorten for the arm to come forward. You're gonna get the line weight for that changes as well. But all that, like I feel all that personally, I picked that up when I started paying attention to inking.
Yeah, but the advice that I got from just looking up like beginners YouTube tutorials like on like how to draw a cube, or like they were saying like they then went into like, well, you draw a cube by building a perspective grid, and then you just kind of like start mentally packaging that into your cube. But in that same video that I want, no one wants to draw cubes all day, so you're going to draw a cube because it's good practice, but if you only draw cubes, you're going to be really great at perspective and horrible at drawing cartoon characters if that's what you want to do. So saying, well, draw what's fun. Like if you're having more fun doing something else, then like do a few cubes and then draw what's fun to you. And then find something that's part of that same fun to do each time. So like if you like go straight into like, drawing full poses, like I imagine that Jose wasn't ever like only just drawing portraits of anime characters in 3/4 or something like that. So the reason why he may not hit that plateau is because he's always doing drawing something new in there. Because if you do something that has like a strong trapezoid shape, that's going to impact how well you can then draw a character with strong traps.
Right.
So they say like that's so like. I'll draw a character like 3/4 one day and then draw a rubber ducky the next day, or whatever is like seems fun or interesting at the moment, but never getting stuck on doing the same thing over and over again because it's not fun. But also I know that if I do that, it'd be something like if I only ever wrote the same 100 words day in, day out, I'm going to be really quick at writing those same 100 words, but I'm not going to develop my ability to write the whole story.
Right. Well, that's why if you look at my portfolio, it's not just it's not just like realistic pictures. Like I can do that. You know what I mean? it takes me a little longer because I'm a little more picky, but I can draw not hyper realistic, but I can definitely draw like a little more realistic. And then I have stuff in there that's very cartoony, like bold line weights and whatnot. And then I have stuff that's like kind of a mix between the two, just because you want to flex every muscle you can when like you're trying to. And I'm not one to say, oh, this is how I draw because this is my style. Any I think if you get who is it? I've seen Ben Dunn's work, right? And he has a very cartoony style, but he can switch it and be a little more, a little more detail oriented than the simple cartoony stuff that he was doing. And I think it's amazing. You know what I mean? But you want to like stretch, you want to flex your muscles. If you don't flex them, then you know what I mean. And drawing in different styles, that means you're drawing with different like mental perspective of how something is drawn, right? You get like you're drawing anime. I'm not a very big anime person, but I can draw in an anime style. I just don't like it. But everything is very chiseled, like chiseled chin, even the females, you know what I mean? Pointy hairs and stuff like that. They just, and that's not even like, because I grew up on stuff like Akira and like,
Mhm.
you know, movies like Wicked City or Fist of the North Star. You know what I mean? Um, so I can emulate that style, but it isn't what I prefer. You know what I mean? Like mine varies from like depending on my day, and I think that's with every artist. But that's why I bringing it all back around. Don't focus on like I have to draw this way because this is my style. Like be fluid. Like learn from every style you can. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm still learning myself. I'm still, you know what I mean? Every day is growing. Even if you ever follow Sergio Pettillo stuff, he's to this day he's still inking in some Buscema stuff. He's inking in Lee Week stuff. Pencils and whatnot for practice to get, you know what I mean, to flex and stretch that muscle.
Yeah,
So it doesn't
I
never
mean,
end.
yeah, and I think also that point. Some other advice I got is, which I don't know how true this is because I'm not there yet, but Jose and Mike and David can probably speak this more so. But trying to pursue a style is something that doesn't really like happen. Like having style is more so something that you'll wake up one day and realize that you illustrate a certain way. It's not something
Yeah.
that you'll actually pursue. It's something that like kind of happens and then you realize you've developed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how it works out, right? Like I know several people. Oh, this is how I draw because this is my style. I'm like, is that the only way you draw? Like, oh, there are so many other artists out there that have done things in so many different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, who was it? Who was the dude that did the cubism? Is that Picasso? Like Picasso did everything was like very weird and shaped and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But he could still do figure drawing, like actual real people figure drawing and whatnot. It wasn't, that's just where he landed comfortably. You know what I mean?
Okay. I'll say so. I mean, obviously, we're a comics related podcast. I'm still in the process of learning to draw as a hobbyist, so I'm not learning to draw comics specifically. I'm just learning how to draw in general. So I'm focusing more on shapes. But do you think if someone like is wanting to take a step into drawing comics, do you think they should learn shapes or anatomy first? What do you think is probably the more crucial part of their fundamentals?
I mean, I think anatomy.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you can draw shapes. I mean, I don't know. I guess shapes would come easier. You draw shapes to figure out where your form is, and then once you learn anatomy, you can fill those shapes in with particular anatomy.
Yeah.
So maybe shapes.
I think I kind of agree more with the shapes because it helps you build your foundation. The anatomy is great, but I think that's maybe a little more of a long term goal. It's more complicated and all that stuff, and I think learning about like I said, a lot of the shading and stuff like that, and how the lights and it works. When you start looking at anatomy and you start looking at muscle tones and stuff like that, essentially those are shapes stacked on shapes stacked on shapes.
Yep.
So knowing how how to draw the shapes and distribute that, as long as you have a good understanding of that, then the anatomy obviously is just as important, but maybe it's get the shapes out first. So
Yeah,
Right.
I'm of the same mindset, but still that there's some internet discourse about if you're like people saying that like if you're looking into comics, skip those shapes, go straight into like researching anatomy, which I guess it comes from a certain perspective of people who only draw muscle bound characters and can't draw feet. But
Let me add on to that, Tim, and say shapes. Sticking with shapes, but
yeah,
yeah, if you learn anatomy, you can learn to draw like big, raging muscles,
yeah,
veiny armed friggin' people. But if you can lock down the shapes, it's going to help you better understand your perspective.
yeah,
In regards to like um, the size and height of your characters, as well as having the basic shapes allows you to set that on your perspective grid, right? Set the figure on
yeah.
your perspective so that you know what I mean, how they
Learn your
lay
vanishing
on their
points. Yeah,
particular shapes and how they're resized from distance.
yeah,
So like for my kids, you know what I mean, my 16-year-old, like she draws in a very like anime manga style, right? But I told her, I was like, listen, if that's the style that you want to draw, if that's the style you enjoy, that's fine. But at bare minimum, at least learn the luminous so that
hmm
you can even the stylized anime heads and bodies and whatnot, you still have to follow like the general principle of drawing Western head and stuff.
yeah. Well, it's I mean it's uh, uh it's the same style of construction. Like the
Yeah,
ratios on the construction is going to be a little different, but you construct it the same way. You still use the same like line of action, and then you crosshair that
right.
and get the
And then once you understand the shapes and how they sit on your perspective grid, then when you start laying out your panels, you know what I mean, for comic books, then you can like change your angle and then you can like change the camera of where they're at. And you'll know that even if like you change the camera angle, it still follows the lines for the perspective grid. Unless you're Andy Kubert, which then you have Andy perspective.
yeah,
His words, not mine.
absolutely. Yeah, I think we're definitely. Thanks, Vic. I just I sent Vic the guts I did.
No.
You guys have already seen. But yeah, I'm gonna say mine. Anatomy, if like it's broken down to shapes, and then even like, and then find like it's funny how many different ways or different shapes people find anatomy breaks down into. I know someone who I've seen like back to back. Someone do anatomy as all different forms of cubes. Someone do anatomy as all different forms of cylinders, and someone do all circles, and still you end up getting the same like results in the end. But there's like different ways of constructing it based on how your brain perceives
Right.
the core. Yeah,
So for legs and arms, I do cylinders because when I'm roughing it out, I have to see like I'll draw the lines like that go
yeah,
across, right? The lines across, so I know my depth. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And for the legs, if I have a leg up, you know what I mean, I want to know where that your rectus femoris is, you know what I mean,
yeah,
and I'll shape those out, and then that way when I clean all that up and start filling it in, 'cause I don't tend to show overly you know, uh, exaggerated muscles when I draw even male characters between, you know what I mean? But like I at least try to make sure like you can see that there's muscle definition.
yeah,
And that just comes from like you can take a figure drawing class, that's great. In school our figure drawing class was also our anatomy class.
yeah,
So there was a whole lot of learning and redrawing like the bone structure, like what bones are where, from like your clavicle, your scapula, everything, from here to the legs. You know what I mean, and even in your head, knowing where your nasal cavity is and what muscles and tendons run across here. So when you smile, when you frown, you know what I mean? Which aren't muscles move between your radius and your ulna, you know what I mean? How the tendons and muscles across there move with it. You know what I mean? We had to categorize them, we had to name them, we had to know how they move. And I still, like I said, I still don't get it all right. But I mean, that is a fundamental class that I felt that I needed and I really wanted to benefit from. So like I paid attention as much as I could in that class.
Nice.
Well, that also brings to, what Jose was talking about before, which is, if, you can work on the shapes and stuff, but changing things up too, and switching to the anatomy and following that, helps you get out of your rut. So, this, like I said before, I kind of feel like, getting the shapes done, concentrate on that first, but that doesn't mean completely rule out the other one, kind of bring some dimension in and, break up some of the monotony.
Definitely.
Oh, and side note to something Vic said earlier about getting those sets because he never bought a gummy eraser. I do. I'll even show you. So this is one gummy eraser and it's hard. And this is another gummy eraser brand. And it's super soft. I use the softer one to rub and erase my lines, like when I want to lift the lead up. And then I use the harder one to actually erase, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so you're saying like it behooves you to go out and try different brands, know which ones you buy, know which ones you like. I know one of them I have is a Prismacolor one, and the other one is actually like the Michael's General brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, find the local art store with a rewards program. We have a Michael's nearby.
Pay attention to the deals. I know we're talking about you just go to Dollar General or Family Dollar and just pick up a bag of mechanical pencils or regular pencils. So like the better you feel you're getting, the better tools you're going to want to get for your job, for what you want to do. So like if your goal in life is to be a comic book artist, start off with the simple stuff. I've seen, how many professional artists are at conventions that do sketches and it's just a regular pencil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing fancy. But when they're doing their pages, they're using cleaner pencils. They're sharpening their wood pencils all the time. You know what I mean? To keep it clean, their lines and whatnot.
Yeah.
So you want to eventually get better tools for the job.
Yeah, I don't have painting is something that I am more versed at than illustrating. So painting, I reached a point there where I have started buying the high-end stuff,
like the sable hair brushes and stuff.
Yeah. So this here is a triple 0-point brush from Winsor Newton. This is real horsehair. That's well over $20, and I only ever use it with my brush, soap. Which, if you don't know, you are supposed to soap your brushes every 3 layers or so.
What do you use? I use the Masters brush cleaning.
This is from Tritart. They do it's a cruelty free, vegan, reasonably sourced type thing. Yeah.
Those are my painting brushes.
Nice.
I haven't done a lot of painting since we moved, but there's my Pro. See if I can figure it out where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and if you haven't got
that's what I was looking for.
One of these, I call these my fencing brush, but yeah.
Fencing brush, yeah.
Yeah, it's
my Raphael.
Your canvas beater.
Right. Yeah, and then I have brushes I have a wedge, or not a wedge, but a chisel tip brush, and then this one and other filbert that I have for watercolors.
Yeah, but I guess it's kind of take that into advice to take home with understand your process, where you are in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
We're with illustrating, drawing. Like I'm 30 days in, so I'm still using like the things I can get cheap at Walmart, right? But when I'm doing something that's painting related, I'm going to get something that's high end from my like art
Right.
supplier
But you
because
didn't. But you didn't when you first
when I
started
first
painting.
yeah, when I started,
You
yeah,
got
exactly.
whatever you could find.
This is like, yeah, if this is 5 years in, like I know exactly what the effect I'm going to get with this brush, but I'm like when I like use a certain brand of paint with it, and then like I stopped using GW paints, set it up for those and I only really use things like if I'm doing canvas, there is a brand is somewhere in my painting drawers. But if I'm doing models, then I only really use Money Hobbies Pro Acryl because
Right.
yeah, like you develop your taste and then you like understand that like I'm going to shell out the price I need to get the quality that I want because I know how to get there and do it in a way that is time and cost efficient and
Right.
yeah. Exactly. The thing is like if I get the horseburger hush, or if I get the horsehair brush, then I gotta do so many other things to reset my karma outside of that brushing.
I mean, if you think about it, right? Horses get their hair cut anyway, as well.
It is the most ethical like animal product because it's something that happens
you're
in
not
their
killing the
farms.
horse
Yeah.
to get your
And if
brush.
anything, you're actively improving their quality of life, and then you just find a use for that hair.
Right.
Yeah. But okay, we are coming in our end here, so I did promise. Jose, how do we draw hands?
Lord. Carefully. I don't even know how to show that. I don't draw. Here's what I did. The beginning of our show, that's what I did.
Nice.
Valen Skull from Star Wars.
Yeah. Also, just a fantastic actor and character.
Right. Such a great character.
Exactly.
And had I not played Ark, I would never have known that Skull and Hattie were like mythological creatures and whatnot.
Yeah.
So when I draw, like, so you were talking about drawing like the square, right?
Yeah.
For the hand.
Do like it's like I do almost like a funnel or a cone, square there. Then I do 2 lines off the top square, and then I turn those into the fingers. And then once you erase the squares, you have a hand.
I try my best not to ever draw hands like this.
Yeah.
Right? Like this. So, and I've caught myself doing it, but in regards to comics, I hate this pose so much. Right? The idea that these 2 fingers are always together. And I was like, my hand never does that. And I realized when I was doing something, I was like, oh, you know what? Your hands do kind of do that. Dang it.
Yeah.
How dare my teachers be right?
Right. That's like now I see a lot of people doing themselves to I even saw like a class do this to understand hands as they were studying Jujutsu Kaisen and the hand poses they do in there. Because they just do so many weird shapes.
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty interesting. So let's see. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, right?
Okay.
And I'm gonna try and do this backwards. We're gonna try. Maybe not. Right. So this is my wrist, right?
Yeah.
And that is the fatty part of your hand. So that's right here. It's always, no matter how you ever look the way you put your hand, it's gonna stick out, right? And then I was like mark where my knuckle is, right? And then I come out for fingers. I try to fill them in very easily to begin with. Wow, that's really weird backwards. Okay, so that's what I started off with, right?
Yeah.
All right. See if I can do this quickly.
I was gonna say also, if you're a first time ever drawing, you haven't like picked up anything that, and like you haven't even looked at like the also another great thing like at Michael's is they have like the how to draw anime, how to draw comics for dummies books.
Yeah.
But when you're seeing like the construction, or like how like the first time you see one of those construction graphs, like I don't understand what these like the leaps and these steps are, because I just see a man with an X on his face, and the next thing you know, I have Cyclops. I don't. But seeing Jose doing his backward construction there, that is. When you're 2 weeks in, you understand. Like I see what the construction is doing, but when you're first starting out, and you see a construction graph, you're like, "What the crap does this mean?"
Yeah, you really do. Like, and then the one that threw me off was the squares.
Yeah.
I apologize for how messy this is. As fast as I'm trying to go.
No, you're fine. We came here for
some expert stuff.
Expert stuff. I mean, if we see that the expert here, Jose, is also having to take his time to construct a hand, then we know that as beginners,
right?
Yeah,
dude, for real. Like that's legit.
So yeah, well, after tonight's show, Cassisi, do you feel more confident in picking up drawing yourself?
I mean, I mean, it's a joke, but at the same time, you do. You feel like there's a couple of myths we dispelled, right? Like,
yeah.
I think a big daunting thing is, it takes a person years to be competent in that. Mm-hmm. And you've already spent a lot of your years doing something else.
Yeah.
You even need to, it doesn't matter whether you like it. Do you even need to invest the time in that? Because you'll never, you'll be like 90 before you can ever draw an eyeball, right? And that's just not true, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to drawing, right, so you're going to learn to draw. When you learn yourself to draw, right, you're going to want to draw everything else, right? The hands, the arms, the legs, the eyes, and you're like, why are my eyes not looking right? Or, why are my lips looking like really jacked up and whatnot? And the one thing I was like talking about with my local comic group, our comic artist group on drawing night, was a guy had asked like, hey, like, how do you draw lips where it doesn't come out looking all like collagen, like and whatnot filled? I'm like, okay, like show me the reference you're using. And he showed me the reference I'm using. I was like, okay, you're trying to draw the lips, right? You're trying to draw the lips where you see red. Like now in your head, like mentally, erase the color. He's like, okay. I was like, it still looks like this. Like, no, it doesn't, because you're not erasing color. If you erase color, what you're going to see is the line right here, maybe the little cleft right here, and then just a line underneath. You're not going to ever see this line connect. And your brain will put that together. Like your brain will look at it and be like, oh, that's a full set of lips, when actually you've only drawn like 2 lines.
Yeah, that's
like a lot of it is your brain like filling in the gap when you don't really need to put it there.
Yeah, that's I learned how to draw lips by referencing Wolverine and Cyclops from the X-Men '97. You see, like it is literally just you have line here, line here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The only reason you draw like the full lips is if you want your female to be full lips. Otherwise, even on the females, you just keep it very simple. And when you color it, you fill that in with color.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, unless Dave's seen it a different way, but like to me, that's what makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And another thing too is something that I just hit this breakthrough with my thing is if you're drawing portraits and your proportions are way off and you feel like things just never end up the way you're supposed to, like have you actually practiced drawing that part by itself? Like take time to practice drawing the nose. Just draw a bunch of noses.
All right. So this is me drawing it backwards. Let's see. Right there. That's where I roughed it out. That's where I drew with the pinky, and my pinky was all awkward, and then that was me cleaning it up and flipping the hand.
Okay.
Right? So you don't see a lot of the knuckles. Like if it's depending on the angle that you're at, you know what I mean? You're only going to see a few knuckles, right? And like I said, that goes where your brain fills in the rest. And, you're going to see, like if you curve your hands like this, you know what I mean? I tend to do it like that so that I want to show that thumb. To me, no matter if you draw the thumb this way, or like keep it in the back somehow, right? That thumb is the reference point to how the rest of your fingers are going to shape. And that's what people will see. You know what I mean? if you ever look at what was it Michael Turner, if you look at Michael Turner stuff on Fathom, right? Um, and I mean this in the most. I'm a huge Michael Turner fan. I loved his work. You know what I mean? Like I tried to get everything I could that he worked on, right? But even some of the stuff he did, like if you look, like either it was the pencil or the inker, but like the fingers weren't always filled in ink wise, right? You didn't fully complete the fingers. Sometimes they were there, came to a point and just threw it a quick little oval for a fingernail. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like I said, when you draw hands, like I don't necessarily draw hands like using the block form. Like mine is like a weird pentagon shape kind
Mhm.
of thing, right? Or was it a trapezoid of some sort? But it's always rounded. Like when I first lay it out, like it's always round where I lay it out at. You know what I mean? And then from there, like you can simplify it and like just like round it out. You know what I mean? And then thumb. Wow, this is hard backwards. And then your fingers. Let's see, right? Your thumb, your fingers, and look at them because they're not all the same size. Just so you know,
Yeah.
not all fingers raise up. It may like there's a point to them and whatnot on some people's fingers. Some are longer than others, but like if you go with like a general finger shape, you can sometimes even not worry about you have like how your fingers are sectioned off. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You can you can like if you're drawing it like who was it Jeff Masuda when he worked on X-Men stuff, like when he drew Wolverine and whatnot, like he would draw that and he wouldn't put the arches in there. He would put the arches only on top where you would see the knuckles and whatnot. But down here was like rounded, you know what I mean? To show that he had like, clawed hands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like some things you could fib, you know what I mean? It still looks good. Like I for one was one of them, but everyone ripped on Rob Liefeld because he tapered all his feet to like being like these little like ballerina feet, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if you look at some of his other stuff, like there's even other artists will take techniques like penciling and inking techniques where like they'll white out their feet, like they'll like run brushes across it, to like give it like the opaque look, like it's like hidden behind like fog or something like that. You know what I mean? Same thing with hands. One thing my daughters would do is they would draw hands behind the back. I'm like, nope, you bring them forward. Like even if you
Yeah.
put them on the hip, you're still gonna see some fingers if it's sitting on a hip.
Yeah. I think the joke that I heard is that in comics, your third vanishing point is always the feet.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I won't
Okay.
lie, feet are still a little rough for me. I can draw them if I take the time to draw them prospectively. I can draw them in. Drawing shoes was always hard until I figured
Yeah.
out that you can simplify that as well. You don't have to
Mhm.
draw every lace going across and all the threading and like the neckline of your shoe and then the tongue sticking out. Like you can work your way around that. Give
Yeah.
everybody tools.
Yeah, honestly, I have the theory that the reason why a lot of comic characters wear spandex is because it's less texture to deal with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can definitely see that. Because
yeah,
then all you have to do is worry about drawing the muscle tone.
yep,
You know what I mean? All the anatomy and whatnot, and then just throw a color on it, and you're done. You know,
yeah, definitely.
like I'll say, like I love watching Rags Morales and stuff because he does a lot of rendering with the various pencil um densities, right? And like just like his fabric folds and how he does stuff. Like look at his was it Rags Against the Machine website, like .net. It
Uh,
he has a lot of stuff he posts, like all the Hawkman covers he did. He always drew him with like the big hawk eyeball on the helmet. I'm like, dude, I will go through there and like just like look at his stuff and just like, okay, how did Rags do this? How did Rags do that? Like I follow quite a few artists, but like he's always one I go back to just because of how well he does his anatomy and how well he does like his fabrics and folds, which
yeah,
well, I think we had him for like a half a year at the Huber School, but like, man, I tried to soak all that into because he was one of the reasons I wanted to go to the school. So
Was he an instructor or something? Or
yeah, he was there. We had a teacher for our first year basic drawing, and then things kind of went awry. And then we had Mike Chen, and who worked at the school like in administration. He also, before that, he did illustration for the Deadlands. Well, other stuff, but like definitely he did illustration for the Deadlands role playing books, right?
okay,
And he taught for a portion of our time. He taught our basic drawing, and then at the end, Rags came in and covered the rest of our class. And he actually is the one that had us go outside and like draw things from life and whatnot.
Nice.
And be like, yeah,
yeah,
just grab your stuff, go outside, and like draw this card, like whatever you want to draw, just draw it, and then we'll turn it in at the end, end of class. So
yeah. I remember a lot of his stuff. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, like we are not on the same agreement level on like political stuff, but as an artist, I've always looked up to his work. Like he's so cool and he's so super chill about like I personally think how he does like talks about his stuff, how he does just talking with you about stuff. I think he's very laid back. So
Nice.
Definitely. Okay, well, this has been That's the One Show on Tuesday. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Draw,
practice.
keep practicing, do it every opportunity you have. And
Listen,
enjoy
I
it.
used to draw in school. I used to draw on my homework, and my 12-year-old does the same thing. She gets in trouble in school, and I gotta like tell her, rein her in a little bit. You know what I mean? But draw every day. Like it doesn't have to be masterpieces every day. Like you can just sit there and draw like S's over and over and over again, or circles, ovals, squares, just all those. Like just like if you're playing drums, you have rudiments that you have to learn to, the fundamentals of drawing, of playing drums. You have to have fundamentals of your drawing, and that's what that is. You know what I mean? Those
Yeah.
are like different, just hatch marks. It doesn't matter. Still a piece of
Mhm.
paper. You know what I mean? And but draw every day. And I know it's like a meme that people say, "Oh, you'll get better if you keep practicing." How do you get to Carnegie Hall and whatnot? But like truly draw over and over again. If you find a piece of artwork that you like, a particular comic book artist whose style you like, find a piece he did, and then try to draw the same thing, and then
Yeah.
try to figure out, deconstruct it to figure out where yours is lacking compared to where he's at. Like, don't
Mhm.
try and make that your style, but like use it as a learning tool.
Yeah. That is I mentioned really comparing yourself to the reference after you drew from it, then seeing kind of where like you may have shifted a ratio or like you may have shifted like a line or something. That's something I learned is like not everyone is going to be not everyone has access to professional critique or necessarily wants to seek professional critique depending on where they are or what their goal is of drawing. But you can, in a way, cheat professional critique by using professional reference and then seeing how much
Right.
you differ from that.
And I will add that if anybody wants a professional critique, like you can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. Like I'll gladly critique someone's work, and I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat anything, but I'm also not going to tear you apart either. I'm definitely going to give you positives and negatives to what you did and where I think you should, you know what I mean? Where I think you should work on, you know? And then I guess the last thing I want to say, I know I've said a lot, but is that I've had people at shows come up to me. It's like, oh, I wish I had the talent you got. I don't. I agree with something that Bob Ross said. It is a learned skill. Like if you want to learn to draw that way, you truly want to learn to draw, in the style of comic books, work at it. Like practice. Like
Yeah.
you don't learn to do anything, you know what I mean, of any value if you don't put the work into it.
Mhm. That's yeah. The same thing with writing too. Is that it's you may have getting into may have a certain level of taste based on your upbringing, but taste is not talent.
Right.
It's you have aspirational goals, and like if you're coming to it with a like raised in an artistic household where you have a little bit of a higher taste, then that just means that you have so many more steps to go to actually match your taste in the first place.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I sure did talk a lot.
It was good.
I appreciate your question, Casey.
Yes. Okay, well, if you don't have any other thoughts, this has been That's Rolling Stone Tuesday. We'll be back next week. Next week, we're talking about everything you need to know to get started as a colorist. So this is going to be
all about Dave.
Yeah, we're all about Dave. We're going to be seeing how he can ride his coattails in the industry.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that topic come up. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're doing a show on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those
I'm going to be
things where,
sick that day, right?
I mean,
Just like
I'm sure-
Jose was supposed to be sick today. So
Yeah.
You know, I did think about it. I was like, oh, what's our topic for today? And I looked it up and I'm like, oh, I have to be on. I can't let the guy down. I gotta be on.
Well, it's like everyone has this moment where like you realize like someone gets paid to do this. I'm sure there's a lot of people who like been like painting or doing some level of like color work with like just messing around with stuff and like Microsoft Paint, Adobe Illustrator, or model painting or something like that, and then have the epiphany like someone gets paid to color comics. How do I get started in that?
Right. And I'll tell you, the first time you get paid for your gig, the first time you get paid for the work that you've done, you're just like, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
I'm a professional.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I had a moment recently where I've said on stream before that my success meter, like I know I've succeeded in life if I know that my books have provided, like if a kid has found like 30 minutes of entertainment from one of my books, like
right.
I then found out that Wolf Hunter issue #1 was used as a reference in a classroom, and
Nice.
the kids loved it. I'm like, all right, I won.
There you go.
I beat life.
Right. That's where you dance afterwards.
Yeah.
Nobody's in the room but you. Like.
Yeah. Okay. We'll be back next
Yep.
week for that. Make sure to check out Wednesday Wham and Silver Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern on those specific days.
We also have Silverline has the White Devil listing on Fund My Comic.
Yes.
Yes.
Pull up.
It's got I forgot how is it 18 days? 18 days to go.
That's funny. The first thing that popped up on my Google was actually a eBay listing from the 1990s run. There it is. Fun comic. Yes, we have moved off of Kickstarter, so now you can find us at fundmycomic.com. If you type in R.A. Jones, White Devil, any combination thereof, we should find us there. We've already raised over our goal, actually. So now we're
Nice.
in stretch territory with 18 days left to go. So
And we're at
That's
185%.
you start getting all the extras and whatnot and stuff like that. Like that's, I mean, as a creator, that's where you obviously you want to hit your goal quickly, but like also as a creator, that the higher you are past your goal, the more benefits that you're able to give the people that back your books. And like, man, some of the stuff that we've given out for like different campaigns and whatnot, it just freaking been awesome. Like original art and other books and stuff I've like pinups and stuff I've had to draw and pass out. Like, I don't know, it's a blast. Like I look forward to those things. Like, so when my books come around and whatnot on the campaign, like I'm like, please go over, because that benefits us, yes, but that means I get to actually do like some pinup art for someone, and I think that's freaking so cool. I love doing that at conventions.
And also, it is a good time to add on to your order with, say, Wolf Hunter issue #1.
Just some random issue that just came up.
Right?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
It's that whole
again, with all of our Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Right there, yeah. if you have any questions, if you don't know what book to buy, I'll also give you a recommendation on what books to buy.
Right?
Yeah. Otherwise, if you don't know, whenever Silverline does funding, our books are already completed. You're not throwing money at a pipe dream. You're pre-ordering a book that's going to hit market anyway. This allows you to get more goodies for your pre-order than you would be able to get otherwise. Not much else to say that. I said we'll be back next week talking about what you need to know to get started coloring. So we'll be the next week will be David's episode to speak a lot. Like this week was for Jose.
Right. I'm gonna come up with a ton of questions. I'm gonna be like Cassisi, like the questions galore ready for you, Dave. You better be there.
Maybe after these 2 weeks, we'll have.
What is a brush? What is a paint bucket?
Yes.
What is autofill?
Yeah.
Right.
Roji Viv or CMYK.
That's right.
Yeah, we get into all that good stuff. So we'll see you all next week. But until that time,
Make mine Silverline.
Hi, my name is Paul Kupperberg. Make mine Silverline.